Welcome to Talk to Brazil with Tom Reaoch, the business connector to business in Brazil. Welcome to Talk to Brazil, the business connection, a leading Brazil business podcast talking about business in the world. I'm Tom Reaoch, an American living in Brazil, known for business networking, and talking from my podcast studio in Campinas, São Paulo, Brazil. Today's guest is Rafael Pinto, and he's talking with us from Rio de Janeiro. Rafael has been a guest before. He is founder and director of Occasio International Advisory and is now co-founder of the Think Global initiative, which organizes in-person and online bootcamps in Brazil and abroad. It handles in-company training activities, mentoring to assist startups and small and medium-sized businesses to change their mindset to global thinking, where a participant is in international immersion without having to leave his city. Prepare to think and act with a global view. So with that, welcome to Talk to Brazil, the Business Connection, Rafael.
Good morning, Tom. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much again for the invitation. Excited to be here for the third time, actually. So thank you so much.
And every time we talk, it seems that so much has changed, huh, Rafael? But I think what has never changed is a global awareness is more critical now. Remote abilities to do business are key to anybody's success. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. With the situation, we're all in the same boat where we're connected more. It also opens more of an opportunity for people from all over the world. More people are connected virtually. More people will have access and can respond to you more quickly. So there's no excuse, as we say, to not think globally, even from your own city and your own country.
Well, we've talked about that before, and a lot even previous to the pandemic, because that was the case for a long time. You know, the world's full of 8 billion people today almost, and there's always been opportunities, but many people seem tied down to they require a personal face-to-face preference to doing business. And I've thought, and you've thought for a while, that wasn't correct.
Right. I personally love also to meet someone face-to-face, get a coffee with them. But it also, I think, comes into play the lack of direction. Some people don't know where to start. Some perhaps don't know what's the first step in reaching out to their country, either virtually or in person. And that's what really brought the idea of creating the Think Global initiative with different partners that I work with, because the idea of connecting with people, looking for new markets, identifying new potential clients or partners abroad, it takes a little bit of guidance from some people and training as well. Why not? We want to help people acquire the new skills and perhaps take away the that they might have when they reach out to a new culture or to a new group of people abroad. So I think the interest is there, but sometimes they need some guidance. That's how I feel.
And I agree with you because, again, looking out to the world, it's a lot of opportunities. It's really an overflow capacity of opportunities.
Yes.
And from a Brazilian company standpoint or really any standpoint, if you try to wrap your arms around the world, it's tough. But what I've seen from what you've developed was a very interesting and coherent connection with Canada and organizations in Canada. And really you've chosen that as a really interesting target because Canada is also, in Toronto specifically, one of the innovative hubs in the world.
Absolutely. Toronto is actually the fourth largest city in North America, and it's one of the biggest hubs, ecosystem of innovation. And, you know, a lot of people, Canada, a lot of people look at Canada, they don't have much information about Canada. And the Canadian government actually does a great job in trying to bring more businesses there, knowing that perhaps the businesses don't want to look only at the Canadian economy market for their products. They position themselves, the Canadians, as an entry point to North America. The Canadians have a lot of trade agreements all over the world. Opening a business is less expensive and faster than in Canada, in the U.S., in many instances. So there's a lot of opportunities for a business to set up shop, and then expand globally from there. So I have been connected with Canada for a few years, and we're helping take a lot of startups from Latin America, also from other emerging countries, starting this year, India, China, to expand globally from Canada, while Canada also gives a lot of perks, a lot of government grants, a lot of incentives for you to grow from Canada outward. So there's a lot of space between culturally and business-wise between Canada and Brazil and Canada and Latin America, and we see this very strongly.
No, and I've seen that from other persons I've interviewed. In my experience, my personal experience in Canada, it's a very diverse society. Unfortunately, most Brazilians just think of Canada as being cold from a temperature standpoint. But in terms of what you said of innovation, it's highly innovative, highly diverse, and extremely open. And I think that's one of the things, and what you just said, it reduces all barriers for inclusion.
Absolutely. It still is cold. I've had the pleasure. I've had the pleasure of going only during the summer, so I haven't experienced the cold yet. But what's interesting is that Toronto is also the most multicultural city in the world. So there's over 150 languages spoken there. We always tell the startups that you can actually test and validate your product in Toronto because there are communities. Portuguese communities, Greek, China. You can test and validate your product or service directly with people from those countries, but while based in Toronto. So it is pretty exciting. The government at the last 2 years have created a lot of programs to incentivize the immigration of businesses there. And like I said, they give a lot of grant, a lot of financial support for when you finally open a business there, so that you can grow and go to the U.S., go to Europe, other places around the world as a Canadian company. So it's really exciting.
Well, from your standpoint and the global initiative that you've started, you also, one of your co-founders, Rafael Pinto Talking, she lives there, right? So she is in Toronto. So you have a co-founder on the ground. So how did you work that out in this training, in the boot camp? I'm sure that was an attraction for the persons that participated.
Absolutely, Tom. In addition to this, we have also institutional and mentoring support from two organizations there, the LATAM Startups and also the Brazil-Canada Chamber of Commerce. So during the Think Global Bootcamp, the first one we did, we had them also present themselves in the opening, and also serve as mentors where we connect the participants who have further questions about the Canadian market to also connect with these two organizations. Raquel moved there about a year and a half ago with two startups. So she is a living proof of a company that has expanded globally, going to Canada. So she has a lot of rich experiences learned to share with the participants. And the other two participants and myself, the other two partners and myself, we also have a international experience in different markets. So that's why we decided to come together as a team. We complement each other a lot in different skills, and initiate this program. We originally wanted to do it on site. We had 6 trainings for the second semester this year, but obviously they had to be adapted, postponed. So we did this on starting a digital version, which we did in October, and we learned a lot about the first boot camp that we put in for Brazilian startups and companies.
Well, I also saw you sent me a list of the participants, and one thing that struck me, and back to talking about Raquel, obviously a woman, a startup, successful in Canada. What impressed me was the list of participants was the large number of women. And I think, talking about diversity and inclusion and women in business, I really thought that striking.
No, absolutely. And it was exciting to have a lot of co-founders there. We had in our workshops, we invite 2 people per company that can join. So we had a lot of women. Also, the women from the Chamber of Commerce and Latin Startups, there were also women, the participants, and our invited guests. We had 3 out of 4 were women. And what's interesting about inclusion is participants, they came from all different parts of Brazil. So always from the big hubs of Rio and São Paulo. We had participants from Campinas, Porto Alegre, Brasília, Goiânia, Florianópolis. So we really wanted to make it inclusive in terms of having companies from all over Brazil as well. So it was really exciting. Definitely, they were very active, very proactive, and had a lot of questions during the workshops. And it was a learning experience for us. So we did of lessons learned, which we're going to include in our future camps as well.
Well, what I saw, it was 4 different days that persons participated. So it's not just a one chance sit down. It's evolving, and people have a chance to think about what they're learning between sessions, correct?
Absolutely. For different reasons. It's hard to get someone to work to stay out more than 2-3 hours during the day.
Right.
I know there's so many online activities. And then also, like you said, I think the strategy is to allow some days between the sessions, because we also give them practical exercises, homework, so to speak.
Homework.
Homework.
And everybody's home, so.
Exactly. And they can actually implement they can implement their business information into the activities. We give them a couple exercises that they have to go out looking for potential clients, to create their LinkedIn, update their profile, talk about the next class, what their challenges were. Right. So something very so that they come out of the course with some really different updated exercises and material for their businesses, right?
No, that's fantastic. It's one of the things that obviously me and I defend, that you need to know your business, you need to know what you're trying to develop, but you need to know how to purvey yourself in the world and project yourself and do your own personal branding. People really want to connect with people, and they trust people.
Absolutely, and that comes into play both the personal and the professional image that you have online. So that's one of the things we stressed a lot in our first boot camp, is to have them understand that to gain credibility of people outside that don't know you, they're reaching out to you virtually. They can't pick up come on a plane at the moment and meet you in Rio or Brasilia. So they base their interaction, their contacts initially with what they read from you online. So we really talked about this professional image, how to present yourself better, personally and professionally. So that was
that's not only the global perspective, because what I've seen most, speaking about Brazil right now, most professionals aren't known in their country. They're not known here. They might be known in their own city. You're talking about Florianópolis or Campinas or Goiânia, wherever, but they don't even have a countrywide exposure here, and don't work towards that. So I think that's really the first step. Be known in your own backyard. Yes.
No, absolutely. No, and a lot of them they have businesses. The ones that participate in the bootcamp, they had business in Brazil, and they're starting to think about internationally. But we always tell them that they really have to be, they have to have some traction or some advances in businesses, because that also gives credibility abroad. The people abroad are not gonna. They're going to ask you how many clients you have back home, how are you doing back home, and why are you expanding globally? There's many reasons to expand, but you have about timing as well. We talk about them. You have to know the right time to not only, think, but also the time to expand. When is the right time to expand abroad, so that you don't lose a lot of your time and you don't lose a lot of resources while attempting to do so.
That's true. Well, and also the other side of that, of opening up yourself to be found by foreign companies and startups that want to find somebody here in Brazil.
Absolutely.
And that's the way that, somebody in Europe or the States or Canada or China or India want help coming here, looking to the Brazilian market. They want to find people that they can trust, that they believe in. If you don't show yourself as being capable, you won't be found. Or you may be found but not be chosen.
Absolutely. I see that from my own experience. I do get people reaching out through LinkedIn, which I'm sure you do too, where people from all over all the world, and I think LinkedIn is a very good resource for that.
Right.
Brazil is, I think, it used to be maybe the third largest community a few years ago of LinkedIn. So, and this is something that Raquel, for example, our partner from Think Global in Canada, she mentions. In Canada, LinkedIn is extremely used, and it's used for networking. And in Brazil, it's still not seen in terms of between us in Brazil. But when the people from abroad reach out to us, Canadians, Indians, they will look at LinkedIn. Right. So again, we stress that you have to prepare a more complete and professional image of yourself professionally, and perhaps a business page in LinkedIn, so that people, it's your first entry point, and for them to get to know who you are, and then establish contact with you.
Right. Well, we started this for our listeners when they may listen to this, just to be aware. We started this podcast here in Brazil at 8 a.m. on a Monday. And before I started this with you, Rafael, just to get back to your point, between 6 and 7:30 our time here in Brazil, I already interacted with 3 different business connections that found me through LinkedIn from China and 2 from Europe. Because at 8 a.m. in Campinas, it's already the end of Monday in China, and it's just a little bit before lunchtime in Europe. So, and that's before I had my breakfast.
Well, that's
true, and that happens every day.
Absolutely.
My wife says you're always picking up your phone before breakfast. I says they're people ready to go to sleep. They've had dinner, and they want to get in touch, and they do. And it's surprising, but it's true.
That's fantastic. No, and we have to adapt. If you work international, we have to understand these time zones. I work in California, and it's behind. So we have to be adaptable. And as long as you have a phone connection, you have some apps on your phone, you can connect with them several ways.
That's true. Well, anyway, what are your next steps? When's the next boot camp?
So definitely, this was a pilot boot camp. We had invited guests as well. We had different guests from different countries come in, one per day, to talk about the different markets and we got some back. We had an evaluation from the program, and people really enjoyed it. They also positive criticism that we will look into and improve for the next boot camps. So what we had planned was actually for this month. But because of COVID, we're going to have an on-site training in Caxias do Sul. We have moved this for end of January. We're finalizing this tomorrow. We have a conversation with our partners. So we're having our first on-site event training, which will be 6 hours. The digital boot format is 8 hours, and the on-site is 16. So that is ready to go. We're also launching the second edition of the digital bootcamp for Brazil, which already have dates.
So that will be, the second one will be online, and that will be open to.
It is online, and it's ready for registrations. We have it starting on the 12th, 14th. 19th and 21st of January. That's the digital Brazil. And we're having conversations, very advanced conversations with partners in Ecuador, in Colombia, and actually today afternoon we're speaking with a partner in Argentina who also wants to take this model to Argentina. So we already have translated our material to Spanish. We work with model of ambassadors, so to speak, who are partners on the ground, where they know the local ecosystem, they know the local needs. So we will be developing the same format of digital bootcamp, perhaps adapting a little bit content, inviting different speakers more targeted toward their needs, and it's very exciting. It's not a complicated process. We did to develop a digital bootcamp. We started with to kind of have the visibility, introduce us and our local ambassador, and then we just put together a date, develop the content, select the speakers, and what we've noticed, Tom, is that the same thing that we see in Brazil of the need of preparing your thinking globally in other countries, and I think Brazil might be even more advanced in areas than other countries because the local ecosystems there don't have perhaps as much support as I see. So there is a large need of preparing the entrepreneurs and the businesses to prepare themselves first before taking this first step, investing money and going abroad or taking their products to another market without having everything set up beforehand.
No, that's fantastic. I agree with you. The need is the same. Obviously, Brazil is a continental country, but when you're talking Colombia, Argentina, Peru, Mexico, Chile even, there are the local nuances that have to be adjusted to. There are the local connectivity challenges or opportunities that you have, and really different business interests. So I think what you've done and you are doing is just replicating a process that can be repeated not only between Brazil and Canada, but between all of these countries and other countries in the world.
Yeah, exactly. No, like you said, Tom, I think creating a model, a process for us to follow, and then just tweak a little bit, adapt a little bit for the local needs, will make it easier, so to speak, to replicate this digital bootcamp several times a year in every country. So as long as we have a local partner that we know, that we trust, that buys into that, wants to participate, also as an instructor. So we open up a space for them to also instructor. So we can do this several times. And because when we do courses, we don't want to have an overwhelming number of participants. Because you can't really interact with all of them. So we limit 15 or 20 companies per course. So that's our goal, and we're excited. In the next week or two, we're setting up a little overall history of those we've had in the last 6 months for Think Global. We'll publish this on LinkedIn to show what we've accomplished and what's coming up as well for 2021.
Good. And you'll be found there. That's the thinkglobalbootcamp.com, correct?
Correct. We have it in Spanish and English as well, and Portuguese.
Very good. Well, Rafael, it's actually what you said. It's not complicated, but it is complex. And I think the success that you have had, even before the Think Global Bootcamp, the complexity comes from first of all, connecting with people that need to be connected to, developing those connections and projecting a reputation, right? Which you have done. Noticing about what you did with Canada and now throughout Latin America, of creating that bond. That will continue to be your success in the future.
No, Tom, and
it's not easy. I want to take my hat off to you. It's not easy.
No, it's not. And you know from your person, it takes time to build relationships. Just as an example, the whole Think Global initiative has been created by 4 co-founders that have known each other for several years, had met each other in different parts of our lives, and these ambassadors who are jumping on the boat and want to take the initiative of other countries are contacts of our network that also we've been building as a relationship for years.
Right.
The speakers we invite also are people we know that for years. So it takes time. Trust, the credibility, and them believe and also in this project. But it's more because we have this connection built over the years that they really they support us, and so it is about people. Business is always about people. So I totally agree with you.
Not everybody obviously wants the low hanging fruit, right? They want the quick success, the quick fix. But many times don't realize that low-hanging fruit comes from a tree that was planted years ago and nurtured for a long, long time. So but what you're offering to your participants is really the low-hanging fruit.
Absolutely. The people we bring into the program, either as ambassadors or speakers, along with ourselves, is also to increase the networking for the participants. That's another value added. We offer mentoring, 1 hour mentoring after every program for every participant. So it's all these things that not only the content, it's the access to networks, the context of the into the program. All this the participants will leave with, and they can continue building on after participating.
Very good. Well, Rafael, I want to congratulate you again. We'll be back talking certainly in the future to see how this is ongoing, and it is ongoing, and hoping to hear about your expansion to other countries and to other places. Okay.
Perfect. No, thanks much again, Tom, as always, for being a strong believer, a supporter. You know, it takes a lot of work, a lot to put together these kind of programs. So it's really satisfying to have this platform to also tell everybody of the things that we can offer, and to help our economy, our ecosystem grow even more. So Thank you so much for this opening. And I hope you have a great week as well.
We will, but also for our listeners, I want them to understand that we first met virtually several years ago through a post that you put on LinkedIn. We didn't know each other personally.
Absolutely.
That evolved to understand what you were doing. I wanted to understand what you were doing in Canada. You shared that. We did have the opportunity, because you came here to Campinas. We did meet personally. We did have the proverbial coffee and pão de queijo and have a sit down, which obviously is worthwhile. But that just adds, that was just an added attraction. And what I've seen and followed what you're doing, you've made me even a firmer believer that this is the way.
Absolutely. It was fantastic to meet you and other people you introduced me to in my quick trip to Campinas. So I want to thank you for that. And definitely we'll meet you again when the pandemic lessens, and we can maybe perhaps my partners and I can all go to Campinas and we can all have a coffee.
Lots of coffee and lots of pão de queijo, right?
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, thanks again, Rafael, and congratulations.
Thank you, and have a great day to everyone. Tom, and we'll be in contact shortly.
Okay.
Um abraço.
And to you too. And for our listeners, I want you can find more about Rafael on LinkedIn, and it's Rafael, Rafael. The last name is Pinto, Pinto. And as I mentioned, the Think Global Bootcamp, which is exactly that, Think Global Bootcamp altogether.com. Okay, Think Global Bootcamp. You'll be finding the next episodes and being able to follow up on what Rafael and his partners are doing. I'd like to thank our audience and our sponsors, Focus MI Market Intelligence. Focus MI specializes in market research for the Brazilian agricultural market. More about them on their site, which is www.focusmi.com. Visit our website, talktobrazil.com. Find our previous shows of Talk to Brazil, which are also available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and many more. Remember, when you talk to Tom, you talk to Brazil and the world. Goodbye, and thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Tom Reaoch on Talk to Brazil, the business connector to Brazil.